And welcome into To Your Health. You know, as you start to grow a little bit older, some things start to affect you more than they did when you were younger. And many times talking with friends and acquaintances, we start asking about things that are going on in their life. A key thing that comes up in many cases is Parkinson's disease. Carl Schmidt's here with the Herb Shop, located in Montgomery on Vaughan Road. And you're open Monday through Saturday from 9 in the morning.
10 to 6.
10 to 6, okay. You can sleep in a little bit. Yeah, but I know you're in there earlier. You're in
I'd
there
have appointments before that.
Yes, but then the store officially opens.
Yes.
And today let's talk about Parkinson's. What basically is Parkinson's? What's happening in our body?
The most obvious thing about Parkinson's is uncontrollable muscle movement, uncontrollable shaking, wobbling, and you're a person, the motions, they're not fluid. Their hands shake and move. So there's several types of Parkinson's and different categories, but the theme that I want to discuss is that neurological issues, whether it's memory loss or whether it's depression or anxiety or dementia, Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, it's all something with the brain and the signals the brain is doing to the rest of the body. In the case of Parkinson's, the most common types, it's telling the muscles, it doesn't know where your hands are, and it's trying to constantly correct where you think your legs and feet and hands and arms, your mind is confused with these relays. Part of this has to do with the dopamine pathway, and there was actually a movie a couple of years ago with Robin Williams in it, who actually had a type of Parkinson's later in his life, and they've had a new drug that was L-Dopa, and all these people with a type of neurological issue got much better, but then the drug wore off, unfortunately, in a few weeks. The point is, we want to feed the body what it needs. We don't want to wait until you're a full-blown diagnosable condition. And so little warning signs are something like spelling. You may be able to not recall a word and you're like, just like, I can't remember how to spell that. Or you're driving somewhere and you think, I don't remember exactly how to finish getting to where I'm going. Or you may you trip a little bit. Your foot kind of grabs the ground and when you're walking, and it's just little bitty things early in the process, or you find you drop things, or you have a twitch somewhere. I don't want people to get paranoid with these smaller symptoms,
Right.
But the point is, many of these issues are 10 to 15 years in the making, and if we can start proactive things as soon as possible, then we can delay, maybe never have something. And that's when the population is having an increase of certain occurrences of issues, it just makes sense to try to avoid those for yourself, and good simple maintenance. So things that help the nerves work better and help the brain work better are B vitamins. And B vitamins need to be in their active form, their phosphate or methyl forms. And then phosphatidylcholine is a type, it could be a B vitamin, but it's a choline or serine. These help the myelin sheath on the nerve work better. And then there's certain plants that have an affinity to support dopamine mechanisms in the body. And we have several formulas that offer that and helping that. And then keeping the liver healthy, and we recommend seasonal or periodical cleanses and detoxes to help remove chemicals, because it's chemicals. Some of the most known ones are like paraquat is a type of herbicide, and there's also pesticides. These types of chemicals used in agriculture and maybe maintenance of highways and right-of-ways, they're pervasive in our water supply, and particularly people who worked in certain occupations were more exposed, and certain military people were overexposed to some of these chemicals. And that's kind of what accelerated their degeneration, if you will.
And this book here is Ending Parkinson's Disease. So again, like we talked in one of our other shows about reversing diabetes, you can address Parkinson's, can't you?
Yes. So ending, and it's more of a let's do everything from a population to reduce the future occurrences. When someone's actively in Parkinson's, it depends on how far they are down that trail with that disease. Some of the other things when it comes to detoxing, there's environmental toxins, as I mentioned, like the weed killers and bug killers, but there's also mold is a toxin, it's a neurotoxin, and there's other types of toxins. So identifying a schedule of different toxins and working on deliberately removing those because they're a constant irritant to the nervous system, and then feeding the tissue so it can regenerate. Another action is increasing stem cells, and there's different mechanisms or ways to increase and activate stem cells. Another part of helping the body regenerate tissue that's malfunctioning and give it what it needs. And then antioxidants can be in more higher forms that reduce oxidative stress on the body, which is kind of how a disease perpetuates itself. So there's removing that toxic load, enabling the tissue to function as best as and give it the resources best possible are part of the reducing the issues and possibly getting you back to more normal.
And when you talked about molds, how do the molds, do we ingest the molds?
Well, mostly it's airborne toxins. So the most common scenario is building materials. Say there's a roof leak or a water leak, like a dishwasher or
some of our viewers may have an older home.
Right.
That could be more apt.
Right. Around windows, doors, any kind of plumbing. Whenever building materials like a wooden cabinet or particle board cabinet or sheetrock or a carpet, wood floors, any of these materials, when moisture stays in contact very long, then and a home is relatively closed to some extent. So once a mold starts, it doesn't have an opposing microbe that could kind of neutralize it or balance it. So a really bad mold is called Stachybotrys. It's a black mold is what the common name for it is.
That's what you usually, when you think top of the mind, you say mold, you think of that.
And it releases known toxins, and these toxins can be identified in a urine test or a blood test. And those toxins can interfere with deep chemistry in the body. They can affect the brain, they can affect the limbic system, how your conscious reasoning system, your memory recall, and it can go into the vagus nerve and affect core functions throughout the body, and then it can cause an immune complication that's known as mast cell activation. So it can be very complicated once it reaches its tentacles into all these body systems. It depends on how long somebody's been exposed to something. I had a gentleman that had actually been in hospital for a panic attack, and in interviewing him and discussing his recent events, he said that they became aware that their closet had a lot of mold in it. It was a house they'd lived in about 2 years, and they realized that when they moved in, they just put clothes in the closet, but then they started feeling sick, and he had these anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And then when they moved things around the closet, they saw a lot of mold on the wall in the closet, and the builder had built something incorrectly, and water leaked inside, and the sheetrock absorbed the moisture, and the paper on the sheetrock grew the mold. And so often we find in our scans, the Zytoscan, that mold or toxins for mold are high on the list, and we ask people to start investigating. Mold is somewhat, the mycotoxins that mold produce are the problem, and they'll settle to the floor or on furniture. Some people, I say, if there's a room that seems to, when you dust, you're like, I just dusted that and the dust is back. That's a clue there could be mold because it makes more dust. And then look at things like your windowsills and doors and return airs and vents. Anywhere there's moisture from condensation or moisture from plumbing, that could be a breeding ground for mold. And there's, like I said, urine tests or blood tests that can tell us those levels.
Good.
And we have questionnaires that can kind of help us see those issues.
Good, thank you. And just remember, it's the Herb Shop. It's located on Vaughan Road here in Montgomery. Come in, they can test you and catch things early on. We'll be right back right after this.